The morning broke with the sharp crack of two gunshots echoing from the stairwell, a sound Zhang Yi recognized instantly as Chen Zhanghao's desperate retaliation. Reviewing the security feed, Zhang saw two young men sprawled on the concrete, their wrenches and kitchen knives slick with blood, while Chen leaned against the wall, pistol trembling in his grip. He ordered his remaining men to haul the bodies back to his own apartment, the weight of the dead a grim reminder of the bounty Zhang had placed on his head. Inside his cramped refuge, Chen's fury was quickly eclipsed by a sudden, searing pain in his back. A quick glance revealed a 30-centimeter slash across his down jacket, the wound hidden by the dark fabric but deep enough to bleed. Ignoring the cold that numbed his senses, he called Dr. Zhou Kur, demanding she come immediately to tend the injury. Zhou arrived with a first aid kit, her professional disgust evident, yet she complied, bandaging the wound while warning that her help would not be free. Chen tried to tempt her with food, but she refused, focusing solely on sealing the cut. Before Zhou could leave, Chen's henchman Kalami slammed the door shut, declaring that she could not depart until the wound healed. The men brought a pot of cooked rice, the smell making Zhou's stomach churn, but she turned it down, accustomed to the horrors of a hospital. The conversation shifted to strategy. Chen outlined a plan to relocate next door to Zhang Yi, keep watch, and eventually strike, arguing that the fortified house was their only hope for safety once the snowstorm ended. Zhou, seizing a brief moment, slipped a message to Zhang Yi, who responded with cold dismissal, instructing her to remain and observe rather than intervene. With the discussion concluded, Chen gathered his supplies, secured Zhou, and escorted her up to the 24th floor stronghold that Zhang Yi had turned into a metal citadel. The young couple living in the adjacent apartment watched in terror as the armed group entered, their fear a stark contrast to the calculated menace inside. As the door closed behind them, the fragile balance of power tightened. Zhang Yi continued to hoard his resources behind impregnable steel, Chen Zhanghao nursed his wound and plotted revenge, and Zhou Kur found herself trapped between a ruthless leader and a distant, indifferent benefactor. The residents outside, exhausted and demoralized, could only watch as the next deadly move unfolded behind the unbreakable glass. The chapter opens with Chen Zhanghao and his henchmen confronting a terrified young couple who have just surrendered their modest apartment. The husband, a bespectacled office worker, bows and offers the house, but before they can retreat a cold-hearted thug swings a steel pipe, crushing the man's head. The wife screams as another stick strikes her, and both collapse lifelessly on the floor. Zhou Kur, forced to stay inside Zhang Yi's fortified apartment, watches the brutal scene unfold, her composure shattered despite her medical training. Chen sneers at her, reminding her of the relentless cold and the futility of life, then orders his men to finish the couple, cementing his ruthless reputation. In the days that follow, the silence of Zhang Yi's high-rise sanctuary is broken by a relentless clanging and banging that echoes from the unit next door. He watches through his camera network as Chen's men take turns checking the front door and the floor-to-ceiling bulletproof window, searching for any weakness that might let them breach his stronghold. Their presence is a constant, unsettling reminder that the siege has shifted from open street battles to a silent, methodical probing of his defenses. Zhang Yi remains inside, his routine unaltered, while the residents below flood the group chat with accusations, curses, and desperate pleas for mercy. Seeking to mock the starving crowd, Zhang Yi decides to livestream a cooking demonstration. He announces a braised pork belly, places a 2-pound slab on the cutting board, and begins the elaborate preparation, hoping the aroma will reach the hungry masses through the screen. The chat explodes with frantic requests for a bite, accusations of selfishness, and pleas for any scrap of food. Midway through, Zhang Yi tastes the broth and discovers he has drowned it in soy sauce, rendering the meat bitter and inedible. In a fit of frustration, he discards the entire pot into the trash, an act that triggers a wave of hysteria in the chat as starving residents scream for the waste to be rescued. Undeterred, Zhang Yi pivots to a grander display. He pans the camera across a meticulously arranged table illuminated by warm lamplight, showcasing an array of dishes: braised prawns, sea cucumber with scallions, premium tofu, sweet and sour yellow river carp, pork intestines, stir-fried fish fillets, sweet and sour pork tenderloin, cuttlefish roast soup, and candied yam. He adopts the demeanor of a food vlogger, lifts his chopsticks, and begins to eat with gusto, savoring each bite as the group chat erupts with frantic begging, people pleading for a single morsel, offering obeisance, and demanding that he share. Zhang Yi ignores every plea, his enjoyment amplified by the neighbors' fury, and continues his feast as the live stream rolls on, the sound of his chewing juxtaposed against the desperate cries of the starving crowd. The chapter ends with the stark contrast between Zhang Yi's insulated luxury and the desperate, starving residents outside. While Chen Zhanghao's men continue to test the limits of the fortified apartment, the residents' morale collapses further under the weight of hunger and perceived cruelty. Zhang Yi's indifferent indulgence becomes a symbol of the widening gulf between the isolated elite and the suffering masses, setting the stage for an inevitable clash as the siege tightens and the hunger-driven anger threatens to boil over into open rebellion. The infection that had been simmering in Sun Jichao's group finally erupted into a nightmarish spectacle. The three men Isun, Zhou Peng, and Gu Jialiang watched in horror as the bandages over their penetrating wounds turned an abnormal yellow, exuding a stench like a rotting carcass. Their skin swelled, the pain became unbearable, and they began to scream, their minds slipping toward madness as the infection gnawed at flesh that no medicine could reach. The sight of their own bodies turning against them left the onlookers trembling, and the room filled with a palpable dread that seemed to seep into the very walls. Amid this chaos, Fang Yuqing clutched her phone and sent desperate pleas to Zhang Yi, begging him to rescue her and the terrified Zhou Core. Zhang Yi's reply was a cold, mocking echo that offered no comfort. He cited the proximity of Chen Jianghao and his own unease, then dismissed her with a curt "I'm a little sleepy, bye." His words were laced with contempt, and when Fang tried again, he simply ignored her, allowing the screams outside the door to drown any hope she might have held. The luxury of the sealed apartment remained untouched, his meals streamed to an indifferent audience while the building's residents starved and suffered. Elsewhere, Chen Jianghao, ever the schemer, bolstered his dwindling forces by gathering 10 young, strong men, some drawn by promise, others forced at gunpoint. Their numbers grew, but their supplies dwindled, forcing them into a desperate, barbaric turn. They began storming any occupied house, slaughtering inhabitants, and feasting on the dead. Cannibalism spread like a disease, turning the once-ordered building into a hunting ground where survival meant devouring the neighbor. The grotesque reality of their hunger was reported back to Zhang Yi by Zhou Core, who described the gang's madness, the lack of food, and the relentless raids that left more bodies on the floor than before. Zhou Core's final message to Zhang Yi was a plea for salvation, a thin thread of hope amidst the carnage. Zhang Yi, ever calculating, weighed her usefulness against his own safety. He recognized that a skilled surgeon could be a valuable asset, even if she was a hostage. After a long, silent contemplation, he resolved to keep her alive, not out of compassion but because she could serve his interests when the time came. The decision hung heavy in the stale air of his fortified sanctuary, a silent promise that the next move would be made on his terms, while the building outside descended further into chaos and blood.